Well, after 3 very rain-affected weeks at Rose Hill and a shock trip to Newcastle, the Sydney Autumn Racing Carnival heads to Randwick this Saturday for the first day of the championships. We've got plenty of Group 1 racing, including the Doncaster Mile, the Australian Derby, and of course the TJ Smith Stakes. Joined by a very special guest, Glenn Munsey. Glenn, how are you?
Oh, very good, thank you, Liam. A strange situation here on Wednesday morning. The sun's out. I don't even know what that is in Sydney lately.
It has been a tough, feels like forever now, but a tough few weeks at Rose Hill with the weather. Obviously, last Saturday did get abandoned after 3 races. We're hoping not to see that at Randwick this weekend with the big races on.
Yeah, but they've copped plenty of rain between Monday night and Tuesday night. They got 100 mils of rain at Randwick, so we're going to be on a heavy 10. But the last time we got massive rain event in Sydney, we raced at Randwick, and there was major concerns that we'd go ahead. But the track played unbelievably well. Let's just hope the same situation gets forward for day 1 of the championships on Saturday.
Day 1 of the championships. Probably the main event on that day is going to be the Doncaster Mile, the $3 million Doncaster Mile. Cascadian won the race last year, will be backing up. Do you think that's a chance this year?
Well, if you have a look at it, he's going to get fairly similar conditions, probably not as wet as he got. He's got to belie a little bit of history, Cascadian. 12 of the last 20 Doncaster winners have carried 53 kilos or less. And if you have a look at the weights for Saturday, only 4 horses have more than 53 kilos. Cascadian is one of them. He does get James McDonald and Barrier 18, but he's well out of the market at the moment. He's around about a $26 chance. But who's to say? You can get surprise results. It just depends on what horse gets through the ground the best.
The favourite in the market is certainly a horse that has been getting through the wet ground lately. That's Forbidden Love. 3 wins in a row, drawn barrier 14. Do you think it is the horse to beat?
Well, the form tells you it's the horse to beat for a couple of simple reasons. She's won 4 races at Randwick. She's won 5 races on heavy tracks. Her last 2 wins are at weight for age. She dropped 7 kilos for winning the Canterbury Stakes. She dropped 7 kilos for winning the George Ryder. The one question mark is she going better than she was going last year when she ran in this race and she finished down the course? The heavy track really brings you into the race, but I've still got a slight question mark over her. When you're taking $4.50 about a horse you've got to worry about, it does have Jamie Carr. Now, she rode Cascadian last year to win the Doncaster. Can she go 2 Doncasters in a row? It's one of those horses. One of the better back runners in the last couple of days has been Iron Thunderstruck. Last time we saw him in Sydney, he won the Golden Eagle. He had Huey Bowman that day. He gets Huey Bowman again. His last couple of runs in Melbourne have been all right. He has won on a heavy 8. I think may have been his 2nd or 3rd run in a race in Victoria. He's won a couple of times on soft tracks. But then again, he's got to contend with 55.5. I'm still getting over last year's Doncaster because I was on Ice Bath at $34, and how it got beat is a wonder to me. And Cascadian, who has not been one of my favourite horses, I must admit, managed to knock it out on the line. But I fail to see whether you shouldn't be having something on her again, Ice Bath, because she'll get through the ground, and she always runs good races in big races.
Converge is a horse that's been going pretty well. It's drawn well. It's around that $8 to $10 mark at the moment. Racing quite consistently as well, this preparation. Do you think that factors into the finish?
It does, and a massive advantage for him is coming back in distance from 2,000 metres. He just didn't seem to relish the 2,000 metres. Well, Animo blew them away in that Rose Hill Guineas race. But Converge, he wasn't disgraced by any stretch of the imagination. And I know Chris Waller has used over many, many years Randwick feature mile races. He tends to run his horses in a 2,000 metre race before it to condition them to being able to come back in trip. And the fact we will get a heavy 10 on Saturday, you want to be very, very strong at the finish. And with no weight on his back, Rachel King 49.5. The reason he's hard in the market is a single figure chance, as a number of those. And Gay has a phenomenal record in the Doncaster.
Private Eye is obviously an exciting horse. We do know that it can fly home. It's drawn barrier 22, but do you think that will be a concern?
Not really, because he's going to get back anyway. Yeah, now the only reason or worry now is just say, well, he's going to have to be probably last. Had he drawn a mid-draw, he might have been in front of 4 or 5, but he was always going to be well back anyway. A lot of people read into where they draw and go, oh, geez, he's drawn a bad alley, that's a worry. But if you're a back marker anyway, it doesn't affect you that much. Then again, if you're a go-forward horse and you draw a wide alley, sometimes that is a massive plus because you're out of the way of a lot of the scramble, and we saw the scramble on the first turn a couple of weeks ago in the slipper. So sometimes it's not an advantage to have an inside draw in the early races here. But no, Private, I won't worry him at all.
Ellsberg is another horse that's been going along nicely, doesn't mind the rain-affected tracks. It's around that $15 mark. Are you thinking that can be a decent play for punters at a good price?
Well, he's probably one of the more popular runners since the barrier draw on Tuesday. He was $21 with the draw. He's into a $15 chance now. He blotted his copybook in a way by being beaten by Just Folk, and there's a horse you've got to look at. Yeah, he's probably Just Folk is probably the best wet tracker in the race. So if you think Ellsberg's got a good chance, well, why not Just Folk? They meet slightly, Ellsberg slightly better, I think, at the weights to Just Folk from the other day. But he's a go-forward horse, Ellsberg. Timmy Clark draws a nice barrier. He'll be in it for a very, very long way. But, with him being $15 and Just Folk being $21, I'll probably tip my way towards Just Folk at a better price.
Any other runners catching your eye in the Donny this weekend?
Oh, mate, it's just one of those races where, there's a horse like Dallasan, had it not been really, really wet, his Randwick record is phenomenal. Albeit he hasn't won, but he runs a great race all the time, but I think he's at disadvantage by the fact it's going to be really heavy.
Can we get a final tip from you for the Doncaster?
I'm going to have something on Ice Bath and I'm going to have something on Just Folk.
Moving on now, we've got the TJ Smith, $2.5 million Group 1. Nature Strip is the favourite, as you would probably expect. It's one of the classiest horses in Australia, especially over this distance. Drawn gate 11, do you think that will be any issue, or do you think it's going to be too good?
Let's get back to what I just said about horses with wide alley. This is the ideal barrier for Nature Strip. James McDonald will just jump out and travel in a straight line. And he'll just say, righto, what are you guys doing? Because I know what I can do. And we've seen him do it before from a wide alley, especially in a race like the Everest. Interestingly enough here, the first 4 horses across the line in last year's TJ Smith race again. Nature Strip beat Masked Crusader, Eduardo and Zutori. They all go around in the race Saturday. I'm very worried the way Nature Strip got through the ground on a similar track at his last start at Randwick. James said he was never really happy on the very, very heavy. Can we ride a fairy tale and Shelby 66 can win another Group 1?
How well is that horse speed going? It's seemingly come from nowhere, really, in the last 6 weeks.
Interesting, Tommy Berry put a comment out this morning on social media and he said, I wonder how he'll go first up on Saturday, because he hasn't been to the races for 2 weeks. Danny Williams is considering taking him to the races today on Wednesday to Canberra to get him switched on a little bit, because he never went to the races last Saturday. And this will be the fairy tale story of the championships if he manages to win. 26 starts, I think he's had. His first 20 starts, he earned 120,000 or something in prize money. His next 6, he's earned 650,000.
It's truly incredible stuff what has happened with Shelby 66. Another horse at single figure odds is Masked Crusader. We know that does like to fly home. Do you think that it can beat the likes of Eduardo and Nature Strip up front?
Well, if you look at the race the other day, Eduardo just held on to beat Shelby 66 and Nature Strip run third. Masked Crusader wasn't there. He can get through the ground. It's just a matter of... Now, here's another horse. No matter whether he drew 101 or 81, he's going to be last. And it's just dependent on where the horses are being able to win from at Randwick. We saw when it was very, very heavy the last time, it was difficult to get very wide and make ground. You had to make your ground closer to the inside. So the track pattern will be the key to Masked Crusader, but he will be the one finishing on, and he'll be the strongest the last little bit, a la Chautauqua.
Any other chances in the race, or do you think it's those 4?
No, I think that those 4, Zutori, who ran 4th in the race last year, I think he's got too much ground to make up.
Final tip for the TJ from you?
I'm probably going to be with Masked Crusader, but the heart's going to be with Shelby 66. And, saying that, the pocket won't be, because it has cost the tab an absolute fortune when it's won at his races, and already the best supported runner in the TJ Smith for Saturday.
The final race we're going to run through is the Australian Derby. The Totsu's the favourite. It's probably the horse to beat. The only query is whether it can handle this rain-affected ground. Do you think it is going to be too good?
Well, that is a very, very big query for him. He's got to create a little bit of history. I think Mahogany is one of the only horses that's won the Victoria Derby and then won the Australian Derby. There is one other, and it just slips out of my mind at the moment. But he's been 280 out to 350 since the draw, for the simple reason being it will be a very, very heavy track, and he's a question mark there. Now, the interesting points on the Derby, Murray Baker and Andrew Forsman. Now, Murray Baker's going to retire in the middle of the year. Murray has trained 5 Australian Derby winners. He and Andrew Forsman have trained 2 of the last 5 together. Now, he's got Regal Lion, who was a $34 chance before Monday at Newcastle. It's now a $6 chance on the back of running 3rd in the Tulloch Stakes. And the Tulloch Stakes form in the last 5 years. It's provided 4 winners of the Derby in the last 5 years, but they've been the winner of the Tulloch Stakes, and that is Character that's backing up from Saturday. The other horse that Monday, I should say, the other horse that ran very well on Monday was Benno for John O'Shea, but he's got barrier 19, and he's going to be forced to go back as he did at Newcastle. Had he drawn a better alley, I think it'd be much, much shorter than the $15 he is.
It certainly was an eye-catching run from Regal Lion, and that's why it is being so well supported in the market since then. Forgot You, drawn barrier 13. Second line of betting with Regal Lion as it stands. Should be at peak fitness now. Do you think it can get this Group 1 victory?
Yeah, well, the Derby's going to be a point of whatever gets through the ground. It's a very, very tough slog. You know, Haitotsu's first up in the Guineas. He goes second up into the Derby. But his last campaign in Melbourne, he went off a 1,600 metre and 1,800 metre run and went straight to 2,500 for the Derby. So never ever doubt Kieran Maher and David Eustace. Their record with horses 2,000 metres or above is unbelievable. But I think the market will risk him, as they have done already, for the simple reason being we're going to get a real heavy 10 there on Saturday.
Any other runners that are catching your eye in the Derby?
I'm going to be with the 2 horses out of Newcastle, and Regal Lion's not going to be one of them because I think he's now getting into under the odds. I'm going to be on Character and I'm going to be on Benno.
Lovely. Well, it's going to be an exciting day at Randwick, we're sure. Hopefully the rain does hold off for the fans in attendance and we get a good day of racing with so many big races happening. Group 1s galore. Glenn Munsey, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Liam.